welcome back to the Irish Edge special Cheltenham Festival show on the irishracing.com YouTube channel. Back for day 2, recording this on Tuesday just before the action kicks off on day 1. So can't give too much insight into what's after happening already, but delighted to be joined by Gavin Lynch again to go through day 2's racing. Gavin, I suppose we were chatting yesterday talking about the ground, but they've got a little bit of rain at Cheltenham, which I think is good going into the first couple of days. It'll be proper good to soft ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think the Turk of the course, Jonbon, got very lucky. There was 3.5 mil yesterday. I don't think they were expecting that, so I think that got him out of jail a little bit. Otherwise, it would have been heading for good ground, I would have said. So I think good to soft is very little excuse for most horses. That's great, yeah, it's good news.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we've got plenty to chat about here, plenty of grade ones and big field handicaps on the card. So I suppose we'll just drive straight into the action. The first race on the card, the Turners Novice Hurdle grade 1 over the 2 mile 5. Betting with Boyle Sports, Final Demand 7-4, the New Lion 7-4, joint favourites in there. The Yellow Clay 11-2, and it's 14-1. Bar those, I think favourites have quite a good record in this. They've won 4 of the last 5, and Willie Mullins definitely has a very good record. He's won the last 3 renewals of this, but strong opposition from the UK camp. The New Lion expected to do big things in the JP McManus colours for the first time. Gavin, what's your thoughts on this? I thought it was quite a tricky one myself.
I like Final Demand a lot. I think he might be the bet of the day on the Wednesday. I did back him after he won a Limerick before he won in the DRF for this race, so I was probably slightly biased. I think depending on how today goes, Tuesday, obviously we haven't seen any racing yet. We haven't backed any losers yet either. But if Willie has a good day, I'd imagine Final Demand will go off a little bit shorter. He has a current rating of 154. The second highest rated horse in the race is the Yellow Clay, and the New Line is third highest rate at 147. The Challow hasn't worked out particularly well, beaten Wendigo, etc. His second last run probably has worked out well, but I just think Final Demand to do what he did at Limerick, that race has worked out quite well. The second, third and fourth have won. He came out then and bolted up in the DRF. So that was a huge improvement from run 1 to 2, and I think he could improve again. I think Willie has plenty in this race. The last day, Final Demand won over 2 mile 6. This is 2.5. So I would imagine Willie would love to see a strong gallop. As I said, he has plenty in it. So team tactics, if they do go a proper gallop, it turns into more of a test rather than a speed race. I think Final Demand will take a lot of beating. I think the Yellow Clay might be his biggest danger. Very, very impressive in Nace. He's won his last 4 over hurdles. And yeah, I think he's probably a little bit quicker than people think. There was a gallop done at Leopardstown recently, and I was talking to one of the jockeys that was there, and he said that the Yellow Clay was very impressive and showed plenty of toe. So I think he could be his biggest danger, more so than New Line. But I think Final Demand, I think if you're going to back a horse for next year's festival, I think somebody said he's 7-1 for next year's Brown Advisory. I think he's going to be a superstar. And I know people said that JP paid 800 or 900 grand for the New Line. I'd say if Final Demand went to auction last week, he'd definitely make way more than $1 million. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely. He does have that mold of it's kind of a cliche, I suppose, but anything he does over hurdles will be a bonus. But yeah, look, he was really impressive with Nathaniel Lacey. My only worry is, like you said, dropping back in trip, but Willie could, I suppose, dominate the tactics of this. There's plenty in here to make sure there's a good, strong pace. And it can be a bit of a funny race, I suppose, sometimes can be tactical. They can go slow and sprint, which, the fastest horse might win. But just looking at this race, I don't know. I don't have a massively strong opinion on the top 2 in the betting. I was really impressed by Final Demand, but just dropping back in trip. I thought he might have been a banker going for the 3 mile, but they decided to go here, I suppose. And the confidence from the Mullins camp, I suppose, speaks for itself. But I'm kind of looking outside of the top ones in the betting, and I was looking at ones maybe at bigger prices. And I thought Super Sunday just looked way, way too big at 50-1. Small stakes each way. He made his debut for Willie in the Supreme last year, ran a good race, was he 6th that day under Patrick. Came back then, he won his maiden hurdle next time. He was second to the Yellow Clay in the Lauders and Nace on heavy ground. I was actually quite surprised that they stepped him up in trip for the Nathaniel Lacey. I thought maybe he looked like more of a horse, a speedier horse than that, but they thought he needed the trip. Didn't work out that day. I think he had the first time tongue tie on. They've deserted that here now again. I just think he's maybe worth another shot to run well at a big price under Danny Mullins, 50-1. Look, he's probably not the same level as the top ones in the betting, but I think he could probably outrun his odds. And you're getting the 3 places each way with Boyle Sports, which will be a help as well. But we'll move on to the next grade 1 of the day, the 2 o'clock, the Brown Advisory. novice, chase. Only 7 declared for this one, but it's definitely a small but select field. I think of the Cheltenham Festival changes, it's definitely helped the Brown advisory because the likes of Ballyburn have been forced to step up and trip and made this a really, really exciting contest. Ballyburn, even money favourite there for Willie Mullins and Paul Town, and they've got next in the betting as well. Dancing City under Danny Mullins is 9-2 with Boyles. Better Days Ahead 6-1. It's 10-1 Gorgeous Tom. 12-1 Stellar Story. 14's Lecky Watson, and 22-1 Key to Bourbon. Gavin, this is a really interesting contest. I think you could actually make a case for nearly everything in the field some way or another. The really, really high quality horses from top to bottom. I suppose Ballyburn does have this kind of superstar quality about him though, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the first thing to note is that there's actually no British runner in the race, which doesn't say a lot for their future Gold Cup prospects over the years ahead, which is a pity. But Ballyburn is even money at the minute. I think if Willie has a good day and starts maybe with the first winner tomorrow, I could see Ballyburn going off odds on. I did back Dancing City a few months back at 10-1. I thought maybe this race would suit him. He's a lovely horse. He went to the DRF, he went to Cheltenham, he went to Aintree, he went to Punchestown last year, and he won 3 of those grade ones. So he's a lovely horse. He'd be odds on if the National Hunt Chase was still a non-handicap. Patrick would be on board, but he's going here. I think his best chance would be if the ground was really, really soft and it was a staying race, or if they go a mental gallop here. But I don't see a lot of pace in the race, so I don't know whether that necessarily would suit him. He might have to go and make his own pace for Danny, I'd say. Ballyburn has loads of gears. He wins the Turner's Novice Hurdle last season over 2.5. I think he'll definitely stay. I think the last day Paul's body language was very positive. To me, he looked like he was always going to beat Croke Park. He just let him pop the last. He lost a half a length maybe at the last, but then he washed away to win by 4 or 5 lengths. So I think stepping up to 3 miles would be fine for him instead of 2.5 the last day. Gorgeous Tom would maybe be of interest. Flashed home in the Drinmore over 2.5. This is his first time at the trip. He would absolutely adore good ground. All his best forms on decent ground. Lecky Watson would want to improve his jumping a little bit. There seems to be a lot of confidence behind Better Days Ahead. I suppose tactically the last day in Navan it didn't suit him being in front. He'll be held up. The winner of last year's Martin Pipe. But is he up to grade 1 level? We'll see tomorrow. I think Ballyburn will take a lot of beating.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with your full summary there, to be honest. I think Better Days Ahead, potentially, you know, taking Ballyburn, if Ballyburn had gone to the 2.5 mile, I really fancy him for this one. Ballyburn does have that kind of superstar quality about him. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he went off shorter than even money. I don't really have any worries about him staying the trip. I know he can race a bit on the bridle, but I just thought his performance at Leopardstown the last day, he was running through the line by Fleming's first out of an old Vic mare. You wouldn't have too many worries about this 3 miles, especially on the nicer ground. You'd imagine will help him as well. His jumping, I think, will be helped stepping up and trip, and maybe doesn't jump like a proper 2 miler, which we learned when he took on Sergino in Kempton. I really like Better Days Ahead. You know, that Martin Pipe Novice Hurdle always kind of produces a good horse, but you'd imagine Ballyburn just might have that class edge over him. I'd love to see him do it, but yeah, I'm finding it hard to go away from the favourite here, even in a jam-packed field of quality. Like even the likes of Stellar Story last year's Albert Bartlett winner 12-1 for this kind of speaks to the quality in the field. So look, I think we're both in agreement there. Ballyburn is the one to beat. He could be one for one of those banker accumulators across the week. We'll move on now, going from a 7 runner field in a grade 1 to a 26 runner handicap for the Coral Cup over the 2 mile 5. They're betting 6 places each way with Boyle Sports. I suppose the punters are well aware of the Skelton's ability to land a gamble, so I think Be Aware is probably an apt favourite for this one after they landed the last 2 renewals with Langerdan. He's 9-2. Bunting next in the betting for Paul Townend and Willie Mullins. Impoise Trois for Nicky Henderson and Nico de Boinville. 8-1 Comfort Zone for Joseph O'Brien and Mark Walsh, and it's 11s bar. Those are really, I suppose, a big runner, competitive handicap. The 6th places will help here, Gavin, because it looks a difficult one to work out.
I think bookmakers could go 10 places. They could count like a golf event if they wanted to. I think that the new track Thursday and Friday can take 26 runners in a handicap because there's a lot more room, especially swinging down the hill, swinging into the straight. But I personally think that 26 is way too many for the old course in a handicap. I think it's crazy. I know that Ruby Walsh was talking about the Coral Cup a few times, and he said that it's just a mental race, a lot of horses banging into each other. You need a lot of luck. Obviously, Langerdan was very well handicapped, so he didn't need the luck. Be Aware has good form. Second last run was in the Great Wood, finished second. Obviously, the winner, Burdett Road, has gone on to good things, but the form in behind isn't as crash hot as you might normally expect with a Great Wood. Normally, it's a very, very good race. I'm not sure if it was quite as good this year, but you had a huge respect for the Skeltons and handicaps at Cheltenham every year. They keep their horses for these races, and they have a good record. Imposed Trois, there seems to be good vibes, but that horse hasn't run in a while for Nicky, but I'm hearing that Nicky gives it a very, very strong each-way chance. Comfort Zone would have a squeak, won on the flat last October, and Nace off 86, went up £8 to 94. Had a good run at Leopardstown, finished third. And obviously Bunting is favourite. Paul is riding. And the 4-year-old form from last year is very, very strong with Majbra and all the rest of them. So he's off the high 130s, would definitely have a squeak. Would want to settle, would want to maybe jump a little bit better. Jimmy Desoy would have a little squeak. And Al Gasparo would be up at the pace. Very, very tough race. I think if they gave you 3 or 4, it'd be very hard to find the winner. Maybe Imposed Trois just each way, but for a very small bet.
Yeah, it looks difficult enough. I was actually looking at Comfort Zone a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned him. His form in the flat looks good, and he's not massively exposed over hurdles. He won a Grade 2 juvenile hurdle on this course, if I'm not wrong. He was 20-25 to 1 a couple of weeks ago. He's probably well enough found in the betting now, 8 to 1, but still has a fair chance, I suppose. But I was kind of looking at Jimmy Desoy here. I think he's kind of an intriguing enough runner. Hasn't been seen since maybe disappointing slightly at the Punchestown Festival last year, but it's his first time dropping out of Grade 1 company since winning his maiden hurdle at Clonmel last year. His maiden hurdle form ties in with Asian Master. He was behind Ballyburn in the Turners last year, running quite a good race. Didn't run too bad in Aintree either, behind Brighter Days Ahead. I just think he's interesting, the fact they've gone straight for this one first start of the season from the Willie Mullins camp. A mark of 145 probably looks fair enough. He's a kind of an up-and-coming 6-year-old. Don't know really what his ceiling might be. Probably found out at Grade 1 level, but could be well capable of making his mark in a handicap like this. Danny Mullins on board, like you were saying, you need a bit of luck around here, and Danny Mullins is a man I wouldn't mind having on side in a big runner handicap field like this. Look, 12 to 1 might even get bigger on the day. Willie kind of normally does well when he has he can have a horse who's coming here after a long break, like the Concertista, and others have gone to the Cheltenham Festival and won very well after not running for a long time. So look, Jimmy Desoy, I think there's a small bit of word going around about him as well. So I'd take a chance on him. Like you said, small stakes each way. The 6 places will help in that one. But looks a tough enough one to figure out. But we'll go on to the next race of the day, the cross country. The first time this has been run as a handicap, another one of those changes they made to the Cheltenham Festival this year. And Stumptown will carry top weight in this year's renewal. He's the 9 to 4 favourite for Gavin Cromwell. He's, I think, unbeaten since switching to cross-country discipline, apart from unseating his rider first time at Punchestown. 4 to 1 Galvin. He was second in this 2 years ago, the last running of the race. 13 to 2 Mr. Coffee for the Henderson team, and it's 7s bar those. This Stumptown, I find it hard enough to get away from him, Gavin, to be honest. I know he's carrying top weight, but he's got the first time cheek pieces on, and he just looks like a horse who could be after turning inside out for this change to cross country.
Yeah, he showed that he loves these fences at Punchestown, and I was slightly surprised that they went and won in the last run in Cheltenham. I think if you can jump around Punchestown, it's much, much easier to jump around Cheltenham. The fences are more basic than they are in Punchestown, where you have double banks and Ruby's double and all those things. I really like Stumptown. I like Bustleton as well. I'll come back to Stumptown in a sec. I backed Bustleton a few weeks ago. The better the ground, the better his chance. He's only carrying 10 stone 5. He got dropped a pound a couple of weeks ago by the English handicapper. He's had 2 spins around these fences. He was quite an eye catcher for me. He jumped them fine. He didn't jump them as well as Stumptown, but then nobody else does. He did win on the flat last summer in Galway off 80 over 2 miles. I don't think too many of these would do it. He's only an 8-year-old, but he actually won the Kerry National. You might never see it again, a 5-year-old winning the Kerry National. But yeah, I think Bustleton's got a strong each-way chance, but my plan was to back Bustleton and hopefully that Stumptown will drift. I see he's 11 to 4 in places and a bit of 3 to 1 on Betfair or whatever, but I think he'll drift, and I think he's got a huge chance. If he ran in an Ultima of 157, he'd have absolutely no chance, but he just jumps these fences brilliantly. He gains length of them. He's a bit like Tiger Owl, who used to jump them brilliantly as well. Keith is very, very good at this track. Keith and Nina Carberry, I was actually sitting in a preview night last week in Ratoath, and the two of them have won this race the most. They've won it 4 times each. So I was saying that night that between the 3 of us, we've won it 8 times. But Keith Keith's fantastic. He's just a brilliant jockey over a fence, and he's great around these cross-country courses. Galvin is an 11-year-old. He's getting £3 off Stumpton. You never thought that you'd hear that. Ran well in last year's Grand National. Loves good ground. Just he's not getting any younger. Mr. Coffey would finish second in a one-horse race. He'll travel well and he'll get placed, but he's not going to win. Vanillier was very good the last time. Punchestown would have a squeak for Gavin as well. But yeah, my plan is to back Bustleton, which I've done, and then I'm definitely going to back Stumptown and see if we can get a profit on the race.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad way to go about it. Like you said, Bustleton, another 7. It's hard to believe he's only, was he 7 or 8, did you say he was?
8, I think.
An 8-year-old. Like, he seems like he's been around for a long time. I suppose winning the Kerry National at 5 would make it seem like that. But yeah, Bustleton and Stumptown probably look like the two. I'm going to stick with Stumptown, to be honest. I think maybe the first time Cheek Pieces could bring out that little bit more improvement he might need carrying top weight around here. And like you said, Keith Donoghue is the man you want on your side going into a race like this. But we'll go on to the feature race of the day, the Queen Mother Champion Chase, the 4 o'clock, 8 lining up for this one. You've got the 3 places each way with Boyles, and it's Jonbon, who's your 10 to 11 favourite in here, bidding to break that Cheltenham Festival duct, I suppose, which has been hanging over his head for a while now. Marine National next in the betting, he's 9 to 2, Solness 7 to 1, and Energamine 15 to 2, and it's 14 bar those. This Jonbon Cheltenham Festival hoodoo, Gavin, do you believe in it, or has he just been a bit unlucky every time he's gone to the festival?
I think he's not quite as good, but I don't think it's a hoodoo. I think when he was second in the Supreme Novices Hurdle, Constitution Hill was the best performance we have ever seen in a Supreme Novices Hurdle and might never be beaten. So that was no disgrace. Second then to El Fabiola in the Champion Chase. And then was second in the Clarence House, ridden by James Bowen. He didn't jump well that day. And since then, Nico is 7 from 7 on him over fences. I think himself and Nico get on brilliantly. People can slag Nico from time to time, but I think on the big day at the Cheltenham Festival, he's a very, very solid jockey. He's very good. And as I said, himself and Jonbon get on perfectly. So I think it's a poor race. I think there's a couple of championship races like the Stayers and the Champion Chase this year aren't great. We've the last 3 winners here. Energamine won it twice, and obviously Captain Guinness won it last year. So this race has fallen apart a few times. Sonless will probably make the running. You see, Danny was very clever on him the last day in Leopardstown. He kept him wide, which he can do at Leopardstown. Is actually an advantage. And even though he jumps a dot to his right, it's not a negative at Leopardstown because you're keeping so wide, whereas you can't do that at Cheltenham. So I'd worry a little bit for him. The vibes on Marine National recently is that the horse is in much, much better form the last few weeks than previously over the winter. I could see him running a big, big race. If you're going to have a bet, it's probably him each way. I just don't know, is he resolute enough in the finish? And obviously, if he did happen to win, there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house, considering the Michael O'Sullivan enrollment to win the Supreme 2 years ago. Jonbon, I think, Leo, he's rated 170-ish. He's 17 from 20. He's a fantastic horse. He has won at Cheltenham. He's probably priced up on his achievements at Sandown and so on, but you know, he does set a high standard. I won't back him, definitely won't back him, but he's the most likely winner, and I'd actually like to see him win, to be honest.
Yeah, look, he's whether or not he's probably definitely at his best around Cheltenham. I know he's won 2 slur chases, but looking through this field, I was trying to find something that could get him beaten. I was struggling a small bit, to be honest. Maybe if the heavens had opened over the weekend, I was giving Energamine a bit of a chance. But on this kind of good to soft, won't be any worse than that type of ground, I can't really see him reversing that form from Sandown the last day. Look, Solness, maybe in one I'd have a small bet on at 7 to 1. Dual grade 1 winner last time. Whether or not he can execute those same tactics around Cheltenham would be a bit of a question mark. But I think I'd be probably willing enough to take on Jonbon for small stakes at least at 10 to 11. What do you think about the chances of Captain Guinness 25 to 1 last year's winner? Look, I know he was lucky in winning it last year, but Henry's horses always seem to peak coming up to Cheltenham. Would you give him any bit of a chance to return to the form he was once in?
I wouldn't really, but he's a kind of a horse that can run bad, and then win and stuff. So he's a bit inconsistent. But I wouldn't really fancy him. I would give Quilixios even Found a 50 a better chance of being placed, and maybe than him. But look, you're going to see lots and lots of surprises at Cheltenham. Maybe he'll win it again, but I'm sure he'd be a massive price by the time they jump off in the Champion Chase. Yeah,
I'd imagine so. 10-year-old now as well. Even getting back to his best, you'd imagine age might be catching up to him in a contest like this. But we'll move on to the next race on the card, another handicap on the day. the Grand Annual, and there is, I think, 21 lining up for this one. You're betting 5 places each way with Boyles. Another Skelton favourite in the handicaps. Unexpected Party, last year's winner, comes back for more. I think off a £6 higher mark than when he won this last year. He's 11-2. My Mate Mozzie for Gavin Cromwell and Keith Donoghue 13-2. So Scottish for Emmett Mullins and Donna Myler 7-1. Same as King of PRS again from the Cromwell team, and it's 15-2. Bar those, look, I suppose last year's winner, Unexpected Party. The Skeltons know how to get these handicappers back to win again at Cheltenham. Can they do it again with this lad?
Yeah, I'm just surprised the English handicap hasn't dropped it more than it has. I'm only joking. It's up £6. It was a very, very good winner last year of 138 up to 144 this year. He's been kept at this race. Was an eye catcher the last day at Windsor. I think he's got a big chance. Okay, the only negative for him is that he's a 10-year-old. But Harry and Dan are very good at these handicaps. And what I'd say is generally, just as a general rule, this is, same as anything in life, you ever say 80-20, but generally the British 2-mile handicap chasers are better than the Irish. That has been the case for a number of years now. And I think Unexpected Party is the right favourite. I think 6-1 is very, very fair. My Mate Mozzie, lovely run the last day, came from a long way back. He would love good ground. He will travel, just like JPR1, the two of them will come cruising down the hill on the outside, and you'll say to yourself, oh, here comes Keith. But he doesn't win very often, My Mate Mozzie. I'm not saying he's ungenuine, but just he does like being placed. So he's probably a safe bet to be in the first 3 or 4, maybe, but maybe not to win. Jazzy Matty, if you look at his run against Pat Deroe, I think it was last October on good ground at Cheltenham over 2 miles. He actually gave Pat Deroe that day £8, I think. Pat Deroe was rated 144, was second in the Dan Moore. It's possible that you could say that Jazzy Matty ran to maybe 150 that day if you add it all up. Now they didn't go that quick that day, but I'm just saying you could say it. And he's off 135 here, so he definitely has a strong each-way chance for Keane Collins. It'd be nice for him to get a Cheltenham winner. And the King of PRS, owned by a friend of mine, Damien Dillon, I know it's fancied. He won the Dan Moore, beat Pat Deroe at Fairyhouse, and he's off a nice rating here. I think it's 10-10 less £3. And Conor Stonewalsh is a brilliant jockey. He's excellent value. That horse, King of PRS, travels really strongly as well, jumps very well. He's genuine. He has a squeak. So look, it's an open race. If I had to pick 2 against the field, it's probably Unexpected Party and Jazzy Matty at 6-1 and 8-1.
Very good. Yeah, I'm totally with you with Jazzy Matty. You kind of made the case for him already, but I just thought it was interesting how Keane Collins hasn't run him over fences again since that performance at the October meeting at Cheltenham. Was it the November meeting at Cheltenham, whichever it was. I mean, like you said, given the weight to Pat Deroe, it was a massive run. He was rated, I think, a good bit lower over hurdles in Ireland, but the BHA handicapper caught up to him a little bit, I suppose, which over fences, than he was over hurdles, but the BHA handicapper kind of corrected that, I suppose. He was Boodle's winner back in 2023, I think it was, under Michael O'Sullivan. He loves the track. Yeah, I think you've made the case from early, but I'm a big fan of Jazzy Matty in that one as well. But we'll go on to the last race of the day, the Champion Bumper. Look, I suppose Willie and Gordon have dominated this in recent renewals. I think they've won 7 of the last 8, with John Kiley slipping in there with a winner as well. So they're probably the 2 stables you want to keep on side here. Again, there's 18 lining up in this one, and betting 4 places each way with Boyle Sports, and it's 9-4 Copacabana. The apparent first string of the Mullins Yard, Patrick on board. Game of Inches next. Really impressive winning his bumper. Paul Townend rides him 4-1. Calypso Chance for the Gordon Elliott team. He's been backed a little bit into 5-1 now. I thought he was a bit bigger earlier on in the week. And Bambino Fever, the filly, under Jody Townend, is 6-1. It's 11s bar those. Look, a bit of a guessing game, I suppose, here, Gavin. A lot of kind of really impressive bumper winners coming off to face to head at the Cheltenham Festival. But was there any of these in here who particularly impressed you?
As you say, it's a tricky contest because there's no collateral form. Lots of first-time out impressive winners. So it's quite tricky. Copacabana, I don't think will SP at 9-4. I could definitely see him SPing at least 3-1. Very impressed with Navan. But what I would say is that for him in Game of Inches, both when they won, Willie said afterwards, they're fine big chasing types and they definitely need soft ground. So is the ground going to be a little bit too quick for them? That's maybe one thing to consider. I like Calypso Chance in it. Very impressive in Punchestown, battled well in Navan. His best furlong on both days was his last furlong. And again, both times didn't travel particularly well, say a mile out or even a half a mile out. But then when it got involved at the business end, stayed on very powerfully. So I just hope that over the last few months, he's learned maybe to get a bit more speed into him to travel well. Jack Kennedy will suit him ideally because he's such a powerful, strong jockey. And if Calypso Chance is with him at the bottom of the hill as they turn in, I think he'll finish best of all. But I just hope he doesn't get outpaced at the bottom of the hill. And Bambino Fever for Jodie Townend, very impressive in the Mayor's Bumper. We all thought that the Mayor's Bumper at the DRF was one of the best Mayor's Bumpers we'd ever seen. She was very impressive down the outside and switched from Diesel, who was second, won at the weekend in Naas, so the form got a small boost. So it's probably more open than the betting suggests. Aqua Force was very good in a bumper in Gorn Park. But yeah, I'm going to go for Calypso Chance each way for Jack Kennedy.
Very good. We're thinking along the same lines, plenty here, which is probably a good thing for me, maybe a bad thing for you. I might be dragging your selections down a bit, but yeah, you've made the case for Calypso Chance. Agree with everything you said. And maybe kind of similar to Romeo Coolio, he was favoured for this race at one stage, but I suppose he hasn't been seen since December. There's been a few Mullins horses came out in the meantime, so maybe a little bit forgotten about. He's gone in a little bit in the betting now, but look, if he drifted out a little bit on the day as well, would do no harm, and it wouldn't be a shock either. You'd imagine the punters might latch on to the shorter price of the Mullins horses in here. But yeah, completely with Calypso Chance. But we've gone through every race on the second day at Cheltenham now with Gavin. But Gavin, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you for your best bet of the day on the Wednesday.
I'm probably a bit biased, or maybe it's my pocket talking, but I'm very hopeful for Final Demand in the first race tomorrow. Very
good. Final Demand in the Turners. And I'm going to go with Jazzy Matty. I think he has a bit more to give over fences. I think he's only ran 5 times over fences. Seems to be a horse on the way back up, getting his confidence back. A Cheltenham Festival winner already. And it would be a great result to see Jazzy Matty getting up for Cian Collins. So Jazzy Matty and Final Demand, the 2 best bets of the day on the Wednesday. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. I'm going to be back every day this week to get Gavin's views on the final 2 days of the Cheltenham Festival. And we've got plenty more good content coming up in the coming weeks. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content.